What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Dark Sage's Interlude. I'm your host, Chaser Dark Sage, and this show is brought to you by Beyond Beats and Culture, the best hip-hop show and platform on YouTube. And as usual, this is the show where basically I give you guys a peek into what I love about hip-hop, the things that I just have on my mind, and I kind of relate it to my personal life itself. But before we actually get into today's video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Well, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I don't know why I said it like that, but you already saw the thumbnail, you already saw the title, and when we think about the big three guys, currently we think about Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole, right? I shouldn't be wrong on that assumption, correct? But it seems that every single era of hip-hop always has a big three. In the 90s, it had to have been probably Jay-Z, Biggie, Nas, or Tupac. I don't know which order you guys will put that one in. You guys let me know in the comment section down below. But each era has their own big three. And when we look at the 2000s, there was a lot happening in the 2000s, for one. Let me say that right now. But also, Atlanta had their own big three, especially with three juggernauts: T.I., Ludacris, and Young Jeezy. These guys were on a monumental run on their own. And this was during the era where no US streaming. You had to buy a physical CD, a vinyl. These guys were on an insane run with most of their albums during that time going platinum. These are guys from the South who aren't the best lyrically, but they were making them hits on the radio. They were actually selling stuff back then. They were moving units. Oh my gosh. And each three of them, they all kind of like encompass their own little field, which they probably had overlapping fans, obviously, if they're going to go platinum, right? But they all like had their own unique spin on what they was doing in hip hop. All three of them from Atlanta. But when it came to T.I., he was the more sophisticated, hustler, business-minded. Basically, he was the Jay-Z of the South, right? But then we get someone like a Young Jeezy, the dope boy, the guy that was on the corner. He was moving at work. Come on, Trap or Die? Thug Motivation? Let's get it one-on-one. Come on, you can't deny me on that. But then we got Ludacris, the very, do I want to say like braggadocious, very comedic, just very larger-than-life character that he presented through his music himself with his very witty bars, his funny sense. He had a hilarious sense of humor when it comes to him and his music, and also just the ludicrous nature of the way like he would actually rap in terms of like some of the like punchlines that he would throw at you. But I just want to talk about today some of these guys in terms of like the runs that they was going on, them being from Atlanta, and the sales that they had as well, because these guys, like I said, were some juggernauts in the game. But first off, let's go into Young Jeezy. I'm not going to get too in depth on this because these each could be a video on its own, but I just do want to talk about it because I want to give these guys their flowers, because let's be real, no one talks about Young Jeezy, T.I., or Ludacris anymore, except for if Jeezy does something maybe in the media with like his wife, which I really don't care about. Ludacris is in the newest Fast and Furious movie, or T.I. something like very controversial in the news. But besides all that, these guys had their own little movements, and they was actually like, they was really doing something. These guys are legends. Not just in the South, they are legends in hip hop itself. Now, let's first go on to Young Jeezy's little run that he had from 2005, I want to say all the way up to maybe 2008 with Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101, which is a classic. We talked about that on our first episode of Beyond Beats and Culture. Thug Motivation 102, The Inspiration, The Recession, classic. Let me know in the comment section down below. And then we got TM 103, Hustler's Ambition, which to me was a pretty big gap in between The Recession and TM 103, which he had mixtapes coming out during the time, which it doesn't look like he has a lot of albums during that time, but what, his first album went 2 times platinum, his second and third album, as Young Jeezy obviously, also went platinum as well, and TM 103 also went platinum as well. But I don't count that during the run. Really what I count as Young Jeezy's run, especially in the 2000s, Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101 up to The Recession, which is crazy because he only has like 3 albums during that time span in his run. But look at those 3 albums though. Now I think Thug Motivation 102 is probably the most forgettable out of the 3 because it's The Recession. It came out literally at the perfect time. It had some great singles as well, and so did Thug Motivation 101, which is probably one of the most iconic Southern hip hop albums of all time, especially with his Can't Ban the Snowman movement itself. So when it comes to Young Jeezy, this boy had a little movement. Now I will say that his movement was one of the more shorter lived ones, but he had a huge impact when he did come out based off of what I hear from other people, because obviously I was a kid when Thug Motivation 101 came out. I was like, what, 9 at this time. But let's go ahead and move on to Ludacris, which I want to say on a good or bad day, my favorites could switch between Ludacris and T.I. I'm just letting y'all know that right now. But we're not going to count Incognito because that really wasn't like a studio album or whatever, right? So let's go ahead and just go to Back for the First Time all the way up to Release Therapy is to me when it kind of ends itself. But Back for the First Time, huge singles. Word of Mouth, huge singles. Chicken and Beer, The Red Light District, Release Therapy. All these albums had huge singles. And let's look at the actual sales itself. It's, look, his first album, 3 times platinum. Word of Mouth, 4 times platinum, which is his best album, by the way. Chicken and Beer, 2 times platinum. The Red Light District, 2 times platinum. Release Therapy, platinum, which I think is his weakest out of all these albums, but it still went platinum. All these albums sold really, really well for back then. Ludacris literally was like a hit-making machine at that time. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, think about how The Baby is like right now or back then. The Baby was like a Ludacris of this like generation when he did come out. He wasn't as good rapping wise as Ludacris. He wasn't as versatile either as Ludacris. He wasn't as a good rapper as Ludacris. There's a lot of things that he wasn't like as Ludacris, but when it comes to like him having fun and him having these very funny like music videos and these cartoonish like music videos, he embodied a lot of Ludacris energy in him. So when we look at these albums right here, I think I have all these albums on vinyl. I do have all these albums on. Yeah. I have Release Therapy on vinyl as well, and Theater of the Mind. But really, I think it really stops for Ludacris up to 2006, because from Back for the First Time to the Red Light District, that's when Ludacris was this over the top character in his raps. But then in Release Therapy, this is the one time where he actually kind of tones it down. He gets a bit serious with his messaging and things like that. But then we got T.I., and what can we really say about T.I.? He is the king of the South he was the king of the South at some point. He was like that guy to really lead the South at one point, but obviously he's been taken over since. And he's still, I think, making music to this day. But we're not going to count I'm Serious, because to me, that's not when the run started. The run really started for me at Trap Music. Trap Music, platinum. Urban Legend, 2 times platinum, has some huge hits. King, 2 times platinum, also has some huge hits, got it on vinyl. T.I. versus T.I.P., which is an album I always sleep on, but it also was platinum. Paper Trail, 4 times platinum. And this is kind of where I stopped the run at, because between 2008 and 2010, when he came out with No Mercy, I believe he actually went to jail. I'm not sure on what charge specifically, so I'm not going to say it, but he did go to jail, I believe, for some time. He had the song I'm Back, which was actually on No Mercy itself. And so when we look at T.I.'s run itself, he also has all hits from all these albums as well. I mean, to me, Paper Trail is like T.I.'s Carter 3. Like how Carter 3 has all these hits and things like that, and it kind of goes for like a more mainstream appeal. Paper Trail is that for me when it comes to T.I. But I think T.I.'s best album has to probably be Trap Music or King. Now, I used to think it was Urban Legend. When you actually go listen to Urban Legend, it's really held by them singles. I'm not gonna lie, but I still like Urban Legend, but it's definitely held up by them singles. But King, really strong body of work. Trap Music, really strong body of work. But I kind of want to actually go and talk about a little bit to end this video off with how these rappers kind of like came out with a more serious album towards the later end of the 2000s. With Young Jeezy, it was the recession in 2008. He was kind of talking a bit more about the political aspect of life, and he was a bit more serious in tone, and it wasn't all like, oh, we got to get this bread, guys, we got to get this bread. I mean, yeah, he did have the Young Jeezy isms in it, but he had more serious subject matter in some of the messaging in the recession itself, especially with a name of an album called Recession. You get it? My president is black, my Lambo is blue. You get what I'm saying? But then we got Ludacris right here, which to me, I want to say that maybe Ludacris started off, because T.I. has it with 2007 with T.I. versus T.I.P., but really Ludacris, I think, really started it off with Release Therapy, because like I said before, Ludacris was this larger than life character in his raps from Back for the First Time up to the Red Light District. But then when we got Release Therapy, when he goes for a more serious tone subject matter, he done cut the braids off. He's like, yo, I want you guys to kind of like respect me. Like, guys, listen to the wording, listen to my messaging. I'm actually talking about some serious topics right here. Like, yes, he obviously has Ludacrisisms, but when it comes to Release Therapy, I think this is the more serious album from Ludacris, the more mature album from Ludacris, especially with songs like Runaway Love. Come on. But yeah, like I said, this is the album where he cut off his braids. On the front cover, you can see him without the braids. He's talking about his past. He's talking about, you know, certain subject matter, like I said, especially with a song like Runaway Love. If you haven't heard that, go check it out with Mary J. Blige. But yeah, he did this in 2006. And then we got T.I. right here from Trap Music up to King. I really, like I said, to me, it all kind of ends at Paper Trail. But T.I. versus T.I.P. is that album where it's like T.I. is dealing with the dope boy versus the sophisticated individual that T.I. is becoming. And Paper Trail, I believe, I don't know what happened between T.I. versus T.I.P. and Paper Trail, but oh my gosh, I hit my mic. Did T.I. go to jail during this time? My memory is so bad and foggy when it comes to like years and stuff like that. But literally between T.I. versus T.I.P. and Paper Trail, this is like when Paper Trail like was the T.I. where he started articulating his words like this. It's a phenomenal phenomenon. Like he started rapping like that. Like he wasn't doing that like that on T.I. versus T.I.P. He was still that hood gangster. He still had that southern drawl about him. But when it comes to like Paper Trail, he started articulating and enunciating his words a lot more and obviously a lot better, but it also came out for a better rapping performance on some of these songs as well. But I feel like T.I.'s first mature album really came out with T.I. versus T.I.P. Like I said, him dealing with the duality of the person he is from his past versus who he's trying to become, more sophisticated type of guy. And then Paper Trail to me is like the album that he has those moments where he's looking back. He has those moments of introspection, but he also has those T.I.isms where he's dissing Shawty Low. This is the album where he makes up with Ludacris, because Ludacris and T.I. did have a beef at one point. He has a song with Ludacris. He's like, yo, if our pops was looking at us right now, they'd be proud of us, Luda. Like, you get what I'm saying? So yeah, it's like they all had like this mature awakening happening with them in the late 2000s. Like after 2005, they're like, all right, guys, it's time to get serious. What are we talking about right now? Let's talk to the kids. Let's nurture a better future. I don't know. But it's just weird that these guys had like such a super huge and long run to where they was like selling albums like crazy. And like I said, to me, these are like the big three of Atlanta. When you look at people from the city and the runs that they had, no one had a run like Jeezy, Ludacris, and T.I. all simultaneously from one city. Maybe from New York. I don't know. But I'm talking about in the 2000s, god dang it. No one had that. All three of these guys were the man. All three of these guys were on the radio all the time. Now, Jeezy to me had the shortest lived one. That's because he was coming out with mixtapes during the time. But Ludacris and T.I., they was reigning kings, baby. Yes, sir. They all had their own little movements. Ludacris had the weakest movement out of all of them. He didn't really have a movement like a Can't Ban the Snowman or a T.I. movement like with the whole Grand Hustle thing or It's the King. He didn't have like a movement, Jesus, like that. But Ludacris did have Disturbing the Peace, which was a label that he had, which Duffel Bag Boys, he helped out them. So hey, we got to look at things like that. And I-20, he'll put people on like that. But overall, just looking at these guys and their careers and their discographies, I just wanted to shine some light on them. This was supposed to be a long video. Hopefully it's not too long, but I just want to note, like, yo, these guys were juggernauts in the game at one point. They don't even make music like that anymore. They're well-respected figures in hip-hop, but they don't even make music anymore. And just look at the impact and their legacy when it comes to like sales, music making ability, and just who they are moving through the media, and like how their careers have gone, besides them being just music artists to them actually like doing things outside of the music, which I think Jeezy became like a big name at the Def Jam studios, that Def Jam label. I mean, Ludacris, part of a huge franchise with Fast and Furious, and T.I., he's had many business ventures with podcasting, him wanting to be a stand-up comic, him having multiple TV shows on TV. I just want to give some light to my guys, man, because I love these guys. I love all three of them. Now, do I love them all equally? Of course not. But I love all three of these guys. I just want to give them some flowers. So basically, this was like a glaze fest. I just want to give a look at T.I., Young Jeezy, and Ludacris, because while they don't make music now, they're not in the forefront of hip hop now, there was a time where these guys were reigning king. Pun intended. But yeah, let me know what you think about these guys down in the comment section down below. Let me know which one is your favorite artist, or which one is your favorite album out of all the albums that I talked about in their runs that they had during the 2000s. And let me know, was the serious route that they approached later on in their careers, was it the right move for each one of them? Obviously, some of them yes, some of them no. But like I said, let me know in the comment section down below. Like to thank you guys for watching. If you are new to the channel, you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the post notification bell. That way you know whenever we come out with newer content. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That way you can see all types of hip-hop content in your feed. But this has been another episode of Dark Sage's Interlude. I'm Chaser Dark Sage. Peace.